Okay friends, I'm Saket Bansal and today I'm discussing how to ask powerful questions, and I lead a company named iZenBridge, and we are into project management training, agile training, and we do run a agile coach certification program. Now in this session I will ask a lot of questions because this is all about asking powerful questions. And we start with our first simulation. People who are connected with me on LinkedIn might have seen this question before. So this is a situation. Now don't get into the detail of the situation, why we are here and why this exists. Just you have a situation where after a sprint review, product owner shows a dissatisfaction from whatever he has seen in a sprint review, including the sprint demo, the data, whatever it is. And that's the case. And you are a scrum master who is expected to do something about it. And you need to ask some questions to the product owner. Now, please write down the questions at your notepad wherever you are. What kind of questions will you ask if you are into this situation? Let's take a 1 minute. So I'm running a counter here, and we will see that what do we get at the end of a minute. So it's a self exercise. You don't have to show those questions with anyone. That's it. Just write them. Great. So we are done. It's 1 minute. Now let's move forward. So just keep your questions with you. Now, the another thing is you have a questions in your notepad. Now I want to ask you, why do we ask questions? Like, what do we want to do? When we are asking questions to someone, what are we trying to achieve? Just think of, why do we ask questions? And especially in this situation, in a coaching conversation, why are we asking? Maybe you take 30 seconds and think about, why do we ask questions? Okay, so 30 seconds done. Let's move forward. Now, this is a usual case. Now, I don't know if it is matching with what you have observed in the previous 30 seconds, that we usually ask questions sometime to do an investigation, a detailed investigation, so we can find out what are the causes behind this and how do we solve it. Sometimes we ask questions to give an advice. So we may ask like, why don't you try this? So it's not a question in a way, but we end up giving an advice. Sometimes we ask questions for getting details, and sometimes we ask questions to make the other person think. And sometimes we ask questions in a coaching format to make the coachee plan something. So we can think of like, many questions are investigation questions, many are advising questions, some are detailed questions. Yeah, we may ask thinking questions, and then we sometimes may ask planning questions. So what do we do about a situation? Now, before we move forward, it also makes sense to think about, there is a situation. A product owner is not happy with whatever he has seen in a sprint review. And I'm thinking of asking him some questions. What I'm trying to do? What is my role here? Am I going to solve the problem, or I am going to facilitate so the team and product owner can figure out what works best for them? Now, if you are asking as a problem solver, you may ask different type of questions. When you are asking questions which are related to coaching, where you make other person responsible for solving their problem, your questions might be different. So I wanted to take a view from you, that in which type of questions in your view will work when you are behaving like a problem solver. So it's a poll which we launch, and it will help us in knowing what type of questions helps us when we are becoming a problem solver. So please pick up the option that out of the 5 types we spoke about: investigation, details, giving advice, making coaching means the other person plan the work or make the other person think. When we are working as a problem solver, what type of questions may help us. I'm going to share this result very soon. We have approximately 60% people already picked up their options. And this is a multiple choice thing, so you can pick up multiple things. It's not only you have to pick one. You can pick whatever. I think I'm giving this information a little bit late. Yeah, but yeah, that is how it is. So we have enough votes. Let me show the results with you. You can see that good number of participants are finding that detailed questions and investigation questions are good when you want to solve the problem. Now let us look at different perspective. When I am not solving the problem, I am just a coach, and I want the person who is coming up with a problem should figure out the solution of the problem, or I facilitate the process where he figures out what is the solution of the problem. Now, if you are into that situation, if you think yourself as a coach, what type of questions will help? Now, let's run a second poll, which will help us in finding out which type of questions are suitable when you are doing coaching conversation. Again, it's a multiple select. You can pick up many. Now we have a sufficient vote. I can show the results, and this is something you already know. So majority of you are finding that if my role is coach, I need to ask thinking questions, planning questions more. So I'm picking up the two. If my role is as an investigator, if my role is a problem solver, I need to ask investigation questions and detailed questions more. Now, let's look at what kind of questions you have asked when I gave you the first assignment. Map your questions with the question type. Again, here you have a situation. Now you know that there are 5 possible types of questions. Again, I am not claiming that these are the only type. And we looked at there are situations when one type of questions are more desired, and you are a scrum master who is a team coach who is primarily in a coaching way. Now you map the questions which you have wrote to these 5 types. Take a 1 minute, think about them, and map your questions here. Okay, so we are done with the 1 minute, and I hope you have your mapping. Now let's look at the content now. Till the time I was just asking questions. So now we know the 5 categories of questions, and I'm getting into details of these categories and talking about some examples and why this help. Now investigation questions usually looks like why it was not determined earlier. So you are asking a product owner why it was not determined earlier. Is it not per the acceptance criteria? If you are looking at a product and you are not liking it, is it not as per the acceptance criteria? Why are you not satisfied? Now, in a coaching format, when you are asking this investigation question, think like yourself as a coach or scrum master, what kind of a response investigation question can generate? So usually, when you are asking an investigation questions, you are investigating and thinking of that I will solve the problem. And when you ask a why kind of questions, sometime I respond to you and justify why the thing was, and most of the time, the product owner in this particular case, might get into a thinking process that how do I prove this is a problem. So when you are asking why this was not determined earlier, I need to prove why it can't be done and why this problem exists because of someone else. So my focus goes really different side. Now this is something happens when there is an investigation question. Now second type of questions are giving advice. Now you can see some of the questions, it may map to the one which you have written yourself. Why don't you revisit definition of done and acceptance criteria? So what are you doing? You're advising someone. Did you define the definition of done correctly? Or did you define the acceptance criteria correctly? Why don't you tell this when the team was making the story done or marking the story done? So this is something looks like a question, but it is an advice. It is not a question. Now, how the other person will respond in general case, it is something like a coach gives a feel that I know the solution. So when I ask a question that why don't you revisit definition of done and acceptance criteria, it means if you revisit definition of done and acceptance criteria, this problem will not exist. So I am asking questions which are more like an advising, and I am saying that if you follow ABC, you are cool, you will be done. And then as a coachee, I may feel, as a product owner, I may feel that this doesn't work here. It is just like they keep advising something, the definition of them keep changing, team does that, this, that. Whatever you are advising doesn't work here. Because it is coming from you, it is not coming from me. So investigation questions create a feeling that I need to prove the problem. The advising questions creates a feeling that I need to show how it doesn't work. Whatever you are advising, I already know it, but it doesn't work here. Then we get into the third type of questions, detailed questions. Tell me more details about your dissatisfaction. Tell me more about it. I want to know a little bit more about what you are saying. It looks like a very judgmental that I am not happy. What do you mean by happy? Can I know the definition of happy? So this is a detailed question you want to process. Now, there is nothing wrong in a detailed question. Detailed questions are usually followed by some type of questions. If the detailed questions are followed by investigation questions, then you are moving towards advising. You ask details, you investigate more, and you advise this. When the detailed questions are linked with thinking questions, and then they lead you to a planning questions that what you are going to do about it, it creates a coaching path. When the detailed question goes to an investigation and advising point, it is becoming a solution path or a problem solving path. So in the investigation advice path, the Scrum Master is responsible for solving this problem. In thinking planning part, the product owner is responsible for thinking the solution and planning the solution for it. So we need to be careful when we use the detailing questions that where we want to lead the conversation. Is it going to get into a problem solving domain, or is it going to get into a coaching domain? Now, if you go into a coaching domain, then there are thinking questions. Thinking question, the objective of thinking questions is, how do I make the other person think about it? I am not asking something to give a detail. So it's like, what do you think we should do to ensure alignment with your expectation? How can we work differently to ensure aligned with your expectation? What ideas have come across your mind about improving these situations? It's all about making the person think about the solution. Now, when you ask these kind of questions, the coachee, in this case a product owner, is thinking. You are not thinking. You are making the other person think. When you are asking an investigation questions, you are processing your mind and you are thinking of a solution. But here, you are thinking of how to make the other person think. Now, I need to make him think. That becomes the goal of a thinking questions. And the product owner or a coachee is thinking about, I need to think of a solution. I don't have to justify the problem. I don't have to give a detail of this problem. I have given enough detail. Now I have to think about what can be done about it. And that is what a thinking question is. Now, some of you might have asked thinking question in our previous exercises where I asked writing down your questions and mapping them to it. Now, thinking question doesn't result into something till the time you make them plan something. So what are your options? What are you prepared to do to ensure alignment? What will you do? What will you do to complete by next week? What can we do to complete by next week? Now it is something like you thought of a solution. Now what is an action plan? So when you ask an action plan questions, so it is more about facilitating the planning. Whereas coachee is thinking that I need to identify the action plan. I just don't have to talk about a solution, but I need to come up with something which leads to a solution. So in my view, the powerful questions are, if I just have to summarize into checklist in a coaching conversation format, are the one which takes coaches forward. It's not about why it was not done, where were you 6 months, you did make the same comment last month or something, you go back. Whereas the powerful questions usually takes you forward. What can be done? Where are we moving? Where should we go from here? And the power questions are also make your coaches think. Your question is a powerful if after asking a question the other person get into a silent mode. He can't just answer you like this. If the other person goes silent, he thinks and then he responds, it means you asked the powerful question. You made the person think. When you ask something, another person just react to it. It may look, it could be probable either you are asking a detailed question or you are asking an investigation question where the person is just getting your question and responding back to it. So it could work as your checklist. The powerful questions are the one who makes the coachee owns his issue. Many times, if you start asking investigation question, the coachee will feel, okay, I am telling the details, I am sharing my pain, this guy will find the solution. So I don't own the issue. I expect you to solve the issue. The powerful questions are also the one which reflect active listening. Means you are listening, your question is coming based on what you are hearing. It's not a script. Your question keeps changing as per the response you get. So you do show an active listening. Now, questions which are less likely to generate insights, again I'm using the word less likely. Why questions that try to get more details and make me justify something? Loaded questions that tell people to think in a particular direction. Questions which are forcing people to act. So if you take the person into action too soon, it could be a bad question. But once the thinking process has been done and then you are getting into a planning question, it could be a right thing. So you don't have to force people into the action, but you need to facilitate the thinking and then lead them towards the planning. Questions which are too focused on investigating the problem usually does not generate insight. It could be good in a consulting conversation. If you are a problem solver, if you are a consultant to someone, if you are going to a doctor will ask you the investigation questions. He will ask you what are the symptoms, what are this, and as a patient you share whatever you want to know and you expect the doctor to solve your problem. But in a scrum master, in a coaching conversation, you are not a doctor. You are facilitating, and the person is the one who is more knowledgeable about the solution himself. He is the one you are more like a fitness trainer who can't just give you a prescription to eat healthy food, because you don't eat. You have to think about eating healthy food. The person only has to make you think about eating healthy food, and then you follow your food. So in a scrum master kind of a conversation, investigation questions can only make sense when you play a consulting role. In some time in agile coaching conversation, we do play an investigation or a problem solver role, but it could be a specific case. In majority of conversations should be moving towards coaching conversation. Now, we just need to remind about what is coaching. So coaching is all about facilitating the thinking process of your coachee. It's like igniting the growth by improving thinking. It's more about showing the mirror. It's more about creating a self-awareness about the blind spots. It's more about providing the structure and process to identify, to talk about the problem and the solutions, and to talk about the action items. So it's more about structure. It's not about problem solving. So when we are in a coaching conversation, we need to change our questions from investigations to thinking. Now, if I just run a final poll and ask you that out of these three questions, which question do you think is more appropriate for coaching conversation? So if I share the results, so majority of you are voting to a thinking question, and the second majority is coming about the detailed question. So detailed question is not bad, but it could be a starting point, but thinking questions are expected. So I'm not saying which is good or bad, but as an idea is that ultimately we need to make the person think. And initially you may figure it out in which direction the person should think, and for that you may ask about a detailed question, but finally it's all about making the people think. So it was a small topic, and that is what I wanted to discuss today. And yeah, so a quick introduction of our IC Agile coaching program, and then I can take queries. I can understand that you may have many queries related to powerful questions, but yeah, we'll look at them. So we started doing something called Certified Agile Coach Program. This is from IC Agile. And just quick facts about it. It's a certification program where you get certified by attending 3 days as classroom session. The certificate is valid for lifetime. There is no written exam. Its evaluation is based on your participation in the class. And the primary focus is coaching mindset, coaching conversation, asking powerful questions, listening, navigating to things, agreeing to a coaching agreement, setting up a work environment in agile context, building agile teams, coaching agile roles, and some conversation towards agile transformation. So this is what the focus of this particular program is, and we keep doing these programs in major cities of India. We just did in Pune, so sometime. So it's Chennai is the upcoming session, and you can check the details on our website as and when you think of doing it. And we are also coming up with the conferences in Pune and Hyderabad. So it's a one-day event where a good number of speakers and participants are coming and sharing what they know about Agile. So it's a Discuss Agile conference. So if you are in Pune or nearby, or if you are in Hyderabad or nearby, do think of attending this conference. And this time, this conference is also coming with one-day Kanban program, which can also help you to acquire one Lean Kanban University program. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. Now it's time for taking questions. So I need to answer powerful questions now. Okay. So I'm trying to take, so there is a one question which says, what will this powerful questioning works well with the reluctant and arrogant coachee? So see, we need to see when the person needs doctor, when the person needs a fitness trainer. If you need a surgery, the surgery can't be done by coaching. So the idea of coaching is that I have a problem. I know a lot of solutions. I'm good, capable guy. I want to do this, but I'm unable to do it. Can you help me to think through towards the solution? And that is where the coaching comes in. So it's like somebody is not following ground rules. Okay, you can start a coaching conversation, but somebody is not even aware of the ground rules. Then you may need to do a training about it. So it all depends what situation we are in and what amount of coaching and what kind of training is needed. Now the current conferences are face-to-face conferences, so we don't have any mechanism to transmit them. They are primarily face-to-face conversations. Now the another question came is, what if the people don't listen to your questions? Now many times I do find a problem. Maybe we are also not listening to the person's problem. So usually we may have a complaint that the other person don't listen to us, but it could be reflected back that are we listening the guy? So if we are not listening the guy, the other person will also not listen to you. When we are doing a coaching conversation, we are at a stage where person is coming to you, and you need to make the person think about his solution. So now how do we coach a person who is not coachable? That could be a separate conversation, but we need to think about how do we organize our conversation which produce a positive result. Now just organizing your conversation better may not solve all the problem, but that's the first thing. You need to at least start from yourself. So you can't change the word, but you can definitely, as a coach, facilitates where people start moving towards it. Now the another question which is interesting one is how questions differs from individuals and team coaching. Now when you are asking a team a question, the questions might be addressing the whole team. So you might be asking a question to a team that as a team, what do you think can help us in resolving an alignment issue with the product owner? When you are asking a question to an individual, it is an individual question. But as far as nature of the question is concerned, anyway you want to make people think, be it team, be it an individual. And once you make people think, they move towards insights. Now the idea is, do we have any techniques to build up the questions we could ask? The answer is yes. So you need to start. A simple technique could be, once you are having a conversation, you may start asking question to yourself, what I'm trying to do here. And then, am I asking a thinking question. That's it. And if I think I am asking a thinking question, is the other person thinking? So just whatever we discussed in this webinar, if you just follow that, that's a technique. That's a technique which can make you think, ask. Now you may ask that I'm asking a question, the person is not listening to me. Now it will be the case even if you ask an investigation question. So it doesn't justify that if the person is not listening to me, I will ask investigation question. If the person is not listening to me, I will give advice. If the person is not listening to you, it will not listen to your advice. It will not listen to your investigation. It will not listen to anything. So maybe the conversation is unable to happen. But when the person is listening to you, now it's your side. What kind of questions are you asking now? Are you asking a thinking question? Are you making the person think? Or you are making a person to defend his position? You are interrogating the person. Then even if he was listening, he will not listen going forward. So the idea of thinking question is make the people keep listening to you. If you ask an investigation question, even the person was listening to you, it will not listen forward. Now, whatever the situation is, if you think how the powerful question will change, think reverse, how the investigation question will spoil the situation. Now, if somebody asks and comes say, this project should have been done in January and you are late, now what do you ask? You ask, why didn't you tell me in December? He will say, should I show you an email where I told you where the conversation is going? Whereas the reverse could be that I am hearing that you are not satisfied with the project performance. Now, what do you think can help us? The situation remains the same. And by asking thinking question, you are addressing the human need better rather than making him defend his position and you finding an evidence that why it could not be done. So now I do see many situations where people are finding the other person is not listening to them. So if the other person is not listening to them, if I recommend, if you reflect on yourself, you may find out you might be doing a lot of investigation. And there could be a possibility that person was listening to you initially, but maybe now stop listening. And I may ask a powerful question. What do you think can work when the person is not listening to you? Will the investigation work? Or will the asking thinking questions will work? Yeah, so there are good comments where he's saying that it is better to ask few powerful questions or one powerful question instead of asking several investigation questions. So so this is an interesting conversation, and I see that a lot of questions are moving towards how do I solve about my problem rather than what is a question type and investigation versus detailed or detailed versus powerful question. So the coaching conversation can go anywhere, and there are a lot of issues which need to be addressed when we do a coaching, and that is why we address the whole coaching paradigm in 3 days program, where we get into all situations where we talk about how do we make people listen. So and then you ask a right type of questions. So in this particular topic, I wanted to limit to only talking about powerful questions rather than getting into how to make people listen. It could be another topic. It could be another webinar. And we do have a video on it. If you go to Discuss Agile, you can see a video. So youtube.com/Discuss Agile, where you can find a video on how to make people listen. So there is a content, and it's a good amount of interaction has been done there. So please explore some of the coaching videos which we have on Discuss Agile Network, and some of them we also have at iZenBridge. So now I can see that most of the questions are moving into different direction, but rather than just making into a powerful question. So I want to summarize for this particular session, and I go back to my slide where there was a checklist, and I want to show you that checklist again, that if as you ask, the other person goes blank for a while, then he thinks about it. You can see the eyes going inside, and then the person coming back and responding to you, you have asked the powerful question. When you ask something and person just start replying to you, your question was not powerful. It was just average question. That's it. That's the first technique you can use to take a feedback live. So you need to take coachee forward. You need to make coachee think, and you need to make coachee owns his issues. And while doing it, before you think the other person should listen to you, you as a coach should reflect active listening. So if you just take away these 4 things from this session, from my side, that was the objective of the session. So this is what we wanted to talk, and I think we are good with our timings now. And if you have a follow-up questions, yeah, you do post somewhere about powerful questions. Now it has nothing to do with at what position you are. You could be an advantage position or disadvantage position. Think of what type of questions exist. If you are so there was a question, how can I ask a powerful question when I am at a disadvantaged position? Do you think you can advise from a disadvantaged position? Do you think you can you can ask investigation questions from a disadvantaged position? No. From all situations, the thinking questions are the one which can make you the best. Now about SUs and all, you will get an email. It will take 24 hours to get an email for SUs and PDUs. Please wait for a while, and that is how it will take forward. Thank you, friends. Do join us, our LinkedIn group at Discuss Agile or at various other places, and these things will remain connected with you. Thank you for joining session today.